Welcome to Drips News, your source for up-to-the-minute global updates. Stay informed as we dive into today's top stories. A surprising political shakeup in Canada, escalating trade tensions with the U.S., a thrilling cricket victory for India, and warnings from the Federal Reserve. Don't forget to follow us online for continuous coverage. Mark Carney has clinched the Liberal Party leadership, positioning him as Canada's next Prime Minister. Despite his lack of experience as an elected official, Carney's impressive background in global finance is considered an advantage, particularly given current economic uncertainties. His leadership roles at both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England are expected to be valuable assets as he navigates these turbulent times. Carney wasted no time addressing the challenges presented by the United States, especially President Trump's trade war and perceived threats to Canadian sovereignty. In his victory speech, he vowed to staunchly defend Canada's interests and independence, asserting that Canada would never become part of the United States and promising continued retaliatory tariffs until the U.S. shows respect. As Carney prepares to take office, the world watches to see how he will translate his assertive words into actionable policies to safeguard Canada's interests on the global stage, while President Trump faces scrutiny regarding the U.S. economy. President Trump admits the U.S. economy is in a period of transition amidst rising trade tensions, though Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick denies an impending recession. This statement follows a turbulent week for financial markets responding to fluctuating trade policies, including tariffs placed on and then removed from Mexico and Canada. China has retaliated with tariffs on U.S. agricultural goods, impacting key products. Trump has accused China, Mexico, and Canada of not doing enough to curb illegal drugs and migrants entering the U.S., accusations rejected by all three nations. While Trump insists his policies will ultimately benefit the U.S., investors fear tariffs will cause higher prices and slower economic growth. Secretary Lutnick believes American-made goods will become more competitive, and some experts predict the trade dispute will eventually subside, but not without leaving a lasting impact on the U.S. economy. All eyes now turn to Dubai, where India faces off against New Zealand. India has triumphed over New Zealand in a nail-biting Champions Trophy final in Dubai, securing a 4-wicket victory. Despite a mid-innings collapse, crucial contributions from Shreyas Iyer, Axar Patel, Hardik Pandya, and a composed finish by KL Rahul and Ravindra Jadeja sealed the win. India's spinners played a pivotal role in restricting New Zealand, showcasing their consistent brilliance. This victory solidifies India's dominance in white ball cricket, marking their third Champions Trophy title. The Dubai crowd erupted in celebration as fireworks lit up the sky, celebrating India's triumph. As the celebrations continue, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is sounding the alarm about potential impacts from President Trump's tariffs. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell warns that President Trump's proposed tariffs are likely to increase prices for American consumers. Speaking in New York City, Powell stated that while the scope of the tariffs remains uncertain, it's probable that import taxes will be passed on to shoppers and retailers. Trump's threat of new tariffs on Canadian products, in addition to existing duties on goods from Mexico, Canada, and China, is expected to increase prices. Powell acknowledged that everybody is forecasting some inflation effect from tariffs, and the Fed's response will depend on the extent and duration of these price increases. While the strength of the U.S. economy allows the Fed time to assess the impact, former Vice President Mike Pence is publicly disagreeing with President Trump's tariff policies. Former Vice President Mike Pence is publicly challenging Donald Trump's tariff policies, advocating for free trade to lower consumer costs. This puts him at odds with Trump's recent tariff actions involving Canada and Mexico. Pence argues tariffs are only effective as a negotiating tactic, particularly with China, while free trade ultimately benefits Americans by lowering prices and improving the quality of goods. This disagreement follows Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's defense of tariffs, despite potential economic disruptions. Pence's critique marks another break from Trump, following his opposition to overturning the 2020 election and criticism of the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. nomination. As Pence breaks with Trump, the president is keeping trade partners on edge. President Trump is keeping trade partners on edge, hinting that tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods, initially slated for April 2nd, could still increase, creating uncertainty for businesses and consumers. Despite a one-month reprieve, Trump insists this is a one-time deal, with potential tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy looming. Mexico is holding off on retaliatory measures, while Canada warns of a potential trade war. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick confirmed steel and aluminum tariffs are still set to take effect, citing concerns over fentanyl flow, framing the moves as a drug war. These back-and-forth tariff policies have raised concerns about a potential recession. As the economic impact of these policies unfolds, Mark Carney has been elected as the new leader of Canada's Liberal Party. Former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney has been elected as the new leader of Canada's Liberal Party, succeeding Justin Trudeau after months of intense campaigning. Carney will lead the party into the next federal elections, facing a tough challenge from the Conservative Party. While Carney assumes the Liberal Party leadership, Trudeau will remain Prime Minister for a transitional period. One of Carney's immediate priorities will be addressing the strained relations between Canada and the United States, fueled by President Trump's accusations, tariff threats, and annexation suggestions. Carney pledged to develop new trading relationships and maintain retaliatory tariffs until the U.S. shows respect. As Carney prepares to lead the Liberal Party, Congress faces a critical deadline to avert a partial government shutdown. Congress faces a critical deadline, midnight Friday, to avert a partial government shutdown. House Republicans have released a spending bill to fund federal agencies until September 30th, but their partisan approach is setting the stage for a clash with Democrats. The bill proposes a modest increase for defense spending while cutting non-defense programs, a sticking point for Democrats. Speaker Mike Johnson plans to bring the bill to a vote, challenging Democrats to oppose it and risk a shutdown. Republicans are attempting to push the legislation through independently, with the support of former President Trump. As Congress scrambles to avoid a shutdown, Donald Trump's golf outings are once again drawing scrutiny. Donald Trump's golf outings at his Florida courses are once again drawing scrutiny for their cost to taxpayers. Since returning to office, Trump has spent 6 out of 7 weekends golfing, racking up an estimated $18.2 million in expenses, potentially exceeding the $151.5 million spent during his first term. Each trip requires Air Force One, military transport, extensive security, and significant law enforcement resources. Despite denying plans to golf during a recent trip. That's all the news we have for you today. But don't worry, the world never stops turning, and neither does Drips News. Stay tuned for more breaking stories and in-depth analysis. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and stay with Drips News.